Hi there, this is Mike from Time to Pet, and thanks for joining me for our Getting Started video. During this video, I will be going over some of the most important features in Time to Pet. We will get started with some of the basics, things like adding a client, adding a service, and adding a staff member, and after we will dig a little deeper into some of the more complex parts of our system. But to get started, let's first talk about adding a client. You can add a new client to your Time to Pet account by clicking the Add a Client button in the Client section in the left sidebar. Just a heads up for anyone that is transitioning to Time to Pet from an existing pet sitting software system, we can help you import all of your client details to our system. For more information on importing, just shoot us an email at support@timetopet.com. When you are ready to add a new client, you can do so right from here. When adding a client, Time to Pet is looking for some basic information about your customer, things like their name, their email, and their phone number. You'll also notice that Time to Pet supports a client welcome email checkbox on this screen. When selected, Time to Pet will automatically send your customer a new client welcome email where they can go ahead and activate their client account and update all of their client and pet information. If you choose not to send your client a client welcome email, you can update all of their information for them and then send the welcome email at a later point. After entering all of the client information, just click the blue Create Client button to get started with your new customer. Next up, let's add a service to your Time to Pet account. All service information can be found in the Services section, and you can add a new service by clicking the plus New Service button. When adding a new service, Time to Pet will ask you some basic questions about that service. For example, the service name, which is what you call your service. This might be something like dog walking 30 minutes. The default duration is how long that particular service lasts on your calendar. If this service was dog walking 30 minutes, we would set the default duration to 30 minutes. You can also choose whether or not your services are selectable or non-selectable by your clients. You might have a service like grooming or overnight pet sitting that you want to be able to schedule, but you don't want your customers to be able to request. In that case, you would simply mark that service as non-selectable. Time to Pet does also support GPS route tracking. GPS can be enabled via the mobile app settings section, and when enabled, by default, Time to Pet will just track the check-in and check-out coordinates of where a staff member starts and stops a visit. If you'd like to track the entire GPS route, including everywhere your staff member went when checked into the visit, you can do so by enabling GPS route tracking on a service-by-service basis. Next up is the automated late reminder notification. When enabled, Time to Pet will automatically send your staff member and your admin team a notification if an event is running late. For example, if you want to be notified 30 minutes after a scheduled event was supposed to be started but was not, you can set that right from here. You can also add a description to a service. This would be visible to both staff members and clients, and a private note, which would only be visible to your team members and your admins. Next up is the rates section of a service. All of your services will have a default cost. This is how much your client pays you for this particular service. You can set up custom rates on a client-by-client basis, so if some customers pay you a little more or some pay you a little less, you can set those custom rates directly on a client profile. You can also choose whether or not your services are taxable and can set the default staff rate of how much you pay your staff members for this particular service. This can either be a percentage or a flat dollar amount, and this is also something that you can customize on a staff-by-staff basis. So for example, if some of your staff members get paid a little more and some get paid a little less, you can customize that directly on their staff profile. You can also set automated extra pet fees. These are automated fees that will be tacked on to the service if that particular client has multiple pets selected, and you can also choose how much you pay your staff members for extra pets here too. If we scroll back to the top of the screen, you'll see that there are two additional tabs here, one for auto fees and one for frequency discounts. These are more advanced features in Time to Pet, and I highly recommend reviewing more details about these in the knowledge base, but we will review them quickly here. Auto fees allow you to automatically tack on additional fees for services that happen outside of your normal business hours and for services that occur on the weekends. You can choose how much you charge extra for clients for events that occur within these timeframes and choose how much extra you pay staff members for completing these events. Next up is frequency discounts. Frequency discounts allow you to set automated rules that will provide your customers a discount if they book X number of visits per day, per week, or per month. For example, if you wanted to incentivize your regular recurring customers to book at least 5 visits per week, you can provide a frequency discount that reduces the cost of that particular service by $1 as soon as they hit 5 visits per week. Frequency discounts are a great tool to incentivize your regular recurring customers to book more of your services to get special pricing. As I mentioned, you can always learn more about these and all of the features in TimeToPet by visiting our knowledge base. Next up, let's review how to add a staff member to your TimeToPet account. All staff information can be found in the staff section, and you can add a new staff by clicking the Add New Staff button. Adding a staff member is very similar to adding a client. Again, TimeToPet is just looking for some basic information like the staff member's name, their email, and their phone number. You'll also notice that there is a drop-down for role on the Add a Staff screen. TimeToPet supports 4 different roles for your staff members. First up is the administrator. The administrator is what your account would be set to if you created your TimeToPet account, and it provides access to everything in your TimeToPet system. There's also an office manager, which is a very customizable role. You might want to allow your office managers to manage scheduling, but don't want them to manage invoicing. Next up is the regular staff member. This tends to be someone who is in the field actually completing events. And lastly is the trainee, which tends to be someone who is brand new to your company. You want to show them how TimeToPet works, but don't want to give them too much control. When ready, just click the blue Add Staff button to add the staff member to your TimeToPet account. TimeToPet will immediately email your staff member a staff welcome email. This is the email that they can use to set their password, and that password and email address combo is also what the staff member can use to download and log in to the TimeToPet staff app. As a reminder, your staff members can download the TimeToPet app by searching for TimeToPet from their app store. Now that we've gone through some of the basics of TimeToPet, let's jump to the scheduler section. The scheduler is the core of TimeToPet, and this is where you'll probably find yourself spending the majority of your time. In the scheduler section, there are 3 different actions that you can take. First up, this is where you can view all of your events. This is also where you can rearrange or edit all of your events. And lastly, this is where you can schedule new events for your customers. Let's first take a look at viewing your events. You'll probably notice that on this particular calendar, some of our events are purple while some of our events are blue. That's because this calendar has been color-coded based on who the assigned staff member is. If we take a closer look at one of our purple events, you'll see that this event is assigned to Kyle Thielk, and if we take a look at a blue event, you'll see that this event is assigned to our staff member, James Turner. Color coding your events based on who the assigned staff member is one of 2 ways that you can color code your events in our system. If you look at the bottom of the screen, there's also a drop-down that says color by staff. If you change this to color by status, now all of your events are color coded based on their status. All of the events that are green have been completed. Events that are blue are still scheduled. If we had any in-progress events, they would be listed in a teal color. TimeToPet also supports several different views of your calendar. You'll notice that this particular calendar is currently set to the week view. If you wanted to set your calendar to a month view, you can do so by clicking in month in the top of the screen. You can also set your calendar to a day view by clicking day. This will just show you events for the day. And TimeToPet also supports 2 agenda views. Agenda week is a list of your events for the week, and agenda day is a list of your events for the day. Right above the calendar view buttons, you'll see 2 drop-downs, one for staff and one for client. TimeToPet also allows you to filter your calendar by staff members or by a client. For example, if we just wanted to see events for our staff member James Turner, select James Turner from the staff drop-down, and TimeToPet will remove all of the events for staff members who are not James Turner. You'll also note that TimeToPet automatically updates the color coding of the event because we're just looking at one staff member here, and it doesn't make sense to show just one staff color. If we X out of James Turner, TimeToPet will go back to our normal calendar view and the color coding will be restored. You can also filter your calendar by client by clicking the client dropdown and selecting one of your customers. Right now, we're just looking at events for our customer, John Doe. This is helpful if we need to very quickly narrow down our calendar and just see events for John Doe because he's calling us on the phone. You'll also notice next to the client dropdown, there's a button for filters. Clicking this allows you to add some additional filters to your calendar. There's an option to show just specific services, to show time off on the calendar and also to hide canceled events. Next up on our calendar is the ability to rearrange or edit events. Time to Pet does support drag and drop functionality, so if you need to change the time of one of your events, you can simply drag and drop the event to change the time. Time to Pet will warn you if you want to move the event. This helps preventing any mistakes. If you want to see more details about an event, you can click on the event, and Time to Pet will give you a quick snapshot of some basic information. If you need to make any changes to this event, just click the Edit Event button. This will load the Edit Event screen where you can make changes to the date and the time of the service. You can also change the service type, the staff member, which pets are included on this event, and the status. You probably noticed on the previous screen that Time to Pet does use a real calendar to schedule events. However, for many of our customers, they prefer not to share the exact times of their events with their customers. That's what the Client Time Display tool does. It allows you to show your customer a more general description of what time their event will occur instead of showing them the exact time of 1 p.m. The Client Time Display for this event is showing afternoon, which means when John Doe is reviewing his events, he won't see 1 p.m., he'll just see the word afternoon. Of course, that gives you and your team more flexibility as you are completing events. Lastly is the event note. This note will just be shared with your staff members and is not visible by the client. Let's go ahead and cancel changes and close out our service order. Next up is the Bulk Update tool. Bulk Update allows you to make changes to multiple events at once. For example, let's say one of our staff members just called out sick and we need to very quickly reassign their events to another staff member. You can do so in Bulk Update by clicking the events for that particular staff member and then clicking the Update Events button. We can go ahead and reassign these to a different staff member and then save our changes. Last up in the scheduler section is the ability to schedule new events for your customers. To schedule new events for a client, just click the blue Schedule Client button in the top right. Time to Pet will ask you which customer these events are for. Let's select John Doe. At this point, it's important to note how invoicing works in our system. In Time to Pet, invoicing is intrinsically linked to scheduled events. That means that whenever you schedule new events for a customer, the invoices are automatically generated for you. In some cases, instead of creating a new invoice for a client, you might want to simply add events to an existing invoice. For example, let's say that John Doe had a trip coming up next week and he just called us and wants to add one visit to the last day. Instead of creating a new invoice, you can click from the dropdown and select the existing invoice for John Doe. In this case, let's say John Doe is going on a new trip, so we will create a new invoice for him. The very next screen will show us the service order for this customer. A service order is a grouping of events that are included on one particular invoice. You'll see in the top left that we're currently working on invoice 1048. There are three really quick ways that you can add events to this service order. First off, you can click anywhere on your calendar, and Time to Pet will automatically set the day and the time for you, and you can set the service, the staff, and the status. You can also click the Add New Services button in the top right, and Time to Pet will show you the same screen, except the date and the time will not be preset. The last way to schedule events for a customer, which also happens to be my favorite way, is by using the Schedule a Trip tool. Schedule a Trip can be found in the dropdown to the right of Add New Services by clicking the Schedule a Trip button. Scheduling a trip is a great way to schedule events for a customer that's going out of town or any client that needs a bunch of events within a date range. We'll say John Doe is going out of town on April 18th and coming back on April 21st. He's looking for our dog sitting service, and James Turner will be providing these events for Fido and for Rocky. By default, Time to Pet will give you 3 visits per day, one at 7 a.m., one at noon, and one at 5 p.m. If you need to change the time of these events, just click in the time block and change, and you can also remove events or add additional time. This particular client is just looking for 2 visits per day, but they don't need the first visit on Thursday morning or the last visit on Sunday afternoon. We'll go ahead and set our client time display and schedule our trip. You'll see that all of these events have been scheduled for this particular client, and if we click on the invoice number, you'll see that the invoice has been generated as well. Now, for all of your regular recurring customers, instead of scheduling events for them every week or having that customer request new services every week, Time to Pet has created a templates feature that allows you to create services for your regular recurring customers. Templates can be found here in the top of the scheduler section. Templates are perfect for any recurring regular client that is billed either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or semi-monthly. When creating a template, you will set the billing frequency and then schedule all of the events for that customer. Time to Pet can schedule and invoice all of the events for that customer until you actually end the template. For example, if your business had 100 regular recurring customers that get billed every single week, you can create 100 weekly templates for them. Time to Pet will automatically schedule and invoice all of the events for those customers every single week until you actually end those templates. Templates is without a doubt one of the most powerful tools in Time to Pet to automate your business. Let's now jump to a client portal so you can see exactly what your customers would see when they log into Time to Pet. The very first screen here is the conversation feed. This is where your clients can see all messages sent to and from them from their Time to Pet account. When you or your staff members are in the field completing events, Time to Pet will prompt you to send a post-visit report to your client. This post-visit report usually includes pictures and notes from the visit, as well as visit report cards. This post-visit report will be posted for your client here in their conversation feed and can also be sent as an email or a text message directly to your client. If your client has downloaded the Time to Pet client app, this can also be sent as a push notification directly to their smartphone. Your clients can respond to these messages or send you messages at any point directly here from the conversation feed. This conversation feed is a complete and detailed history of all messages sent to and from your client in your Time to Pet account. Next up is the My Info section. My Info is where your client can view and update all of the information that you collect about them. You'll notice that some of these fields have been marked as required. Time to Pet does support required fields for both clients and pets. This means that your client has to complete this information before they can request services. This is great for fields like their address or their name. Of course, those are really important pieces of information for you to have before you provide services to a customer. Next up is the pet section. The pet section is where your client can view and update all of the information that your business has on their pets. All of these fields that we see here and the fields in the My Info section are completely customizable in Time to Pet. That means that you can create as many fields as you need to make sure that you're collecting the appropriate information that your business needs to provide pet care services. Next up is the Schedule tab. The Schedule tab is where your client can view all of their scheduled events, and this is also where they can request new services from your business. To request a new service, your client would click the Request New Service button, and then they can choose to request just one visit or multiple visits. In this case, let's say this customer needs multiple visits. When clicking multiple visits, your customer will be presented with a screen very similar to Schedule a Trip. They can set their date range, select the type of service that they need, and then select one of the schedule blocks that you've created for them. After everything looks good, your client can submit their request. I'll show you how you can actually process a request a little bit later in our demo. Lastly, here is the Invoices section in the client portal. The Invoices section is where your client can view all of their invoices, and if you allow clients to do so, they can make payments on these invoices directly through Time to Pet. When payments are enabled, your clients can make payments via credit card, debit card, or even ACH payments, and they can make payments directly from the client portal or directly from the client app. You can also allow your clients to add a tip to the payments if you choose to do so. Let's now jump back to the admin section in Time to Pet and look at one of our pending requests. This client, John Doe, submitted a request for visits in August of 2019, and we're ready to approve them. Let's go ahead and click the blue Process Request button. Time to Pet is giving you a list of all of the events that have been requested. If you need to make any changes, you can click the Edit button in the top right. After everything looks good, let's go ahead and save and then start to process these events. You can process them one at a time by clicking Process and Approve, or if you know that these are all correct, just click the drop-down next to Edit Request and click Approve All. As soon as you approve these events, Time to Pet will automatically send your customer a confirmation email letting them know that their events have been reviewed. If you don't want your client to get that confirmation email, simply uncheck the confirmation email checkbox before approving the final visit. Let's now go ahead and jump to a client profile in Time to Pet. We'll search for our customer John Doe and jump to their client profile. The very first screen we see here is the conversation feed. This is where you, as the admin, can see all messages sent to and from this client. Next up is the details section. The details section of a client profile is where you can view and update all of the information about this client. Just like your client can make changes on their end, you can make changes for them. Next up is the Services and Invoices tab. This is where you can see a complete and detailed history of all of the services and all of the invoices associated with this client. In Time to Pet, there's no limit to the amount of information we will store for you. So if this is a client of yours for 10 years, you'll see 10 years worth of data here. Next up is the Pets tab. The Pets tab is where you can view and update all of the information for this client's pets. You can also add new pets for your client if you need to. The Rates tab is where you can view and customize all of the rates that this client pays you for your services. For example, this particular client only pays us $22 for dog walking, even though the default cost is set to $25. Time to Pet also supports key management features, which you can find in the Keys tab of a client's profile. You can see here that this company is in possession of 3 different keys for this client. The first one is listed as 011, the second one is 011 spare 2, and the last one is 011 spare. Every time a key changes hands, you can update it in Time to Pet by clicking the Edit Key button. Let's say that this particular key just went from the office to our staff member James Turner. You'll see that Time to Pet is updating the key in the last update section, and you can also see a complete history of that key. Let's go ahead and give it back to the office. And you'll see the key has been updated once again. Lastly, here is the Docs tab. The Docs tab is where you can upload documents directly to a client's account. So for example, if you had something from this client's vet or a signed service agreement and you wanted to scan it in and save it to their client profile, you can do so right from here. Just a heads up, Time to Pet also supports global documents. Global docs are docs that you would upload one time, and Time to Pet would automatically associate them with each one of your client profiles. Let's go ahead and take a look at a staff member now. This is our staff member, James Turner, and this is what a staff member's profile looks like in Time to Pet. Each staff member has their own conversation feed. This is where you can send direct messages to and from your staff member that are not associated with any particular client. For example, if you need to ask James Turner if he's coming into work tomorrow, this is a great place to do so. These conversation messages can also be sent as email, text, or as push notifications directly to James Turner's Time to Pet app. Next up is the Schedule tab. The Schedule tab is where you can view all scheduled events for this particular staff member, and this is also where you can change the color that they appear on the main scheduler page. Next up is the Keys tab. This is where you can see all keys that are currently in possession of this staff member. You'll see that James Turner is currently in possession of a spare key for John Doe. The Rates tab is where you can set custom rates for a staff member. You'll see that the default rate for our dog walking and dog sitting service is $10, but James Turner actually makes 60%. The reason that Time to Pet tracks all of this information is because we have a staff pay stubs or a user invoices feature. Staff pay stubs and user invoices allow you to generate reports that show you exactly how much you owe your staff member over any given date range. Unfortunately, Time to Pet is not a payroll processor, so we can't actually process payments to your team, but we can most certainly provide you a report that shows exactly how much you owe them, and then you can enter that into your payroll processor of choice. If you need to generate pay stubs or user invoices for multiple staff members at once, you can do so by going to the Pay Stubs section underneath Staff in the left sidebar. Let's now jump to the Invoicing section in Time to Pet. The invoice list is where you can see a list of all of your invoices. You can also filter this list by the status in the top right-hand side of the screen. To view an invoice, click the Edit button in the far right. If you needed to make any changes to this invoice, you can do so right from here. For example, if you needed to change the invoice date or the invoice due date, you can do so by clicking on the calendar icons and then selecting a new date. You can also edit every single line item by clicking the pencil icon, making your changes, and then click the floppy disk icon to save. You can add a custom line item to an invoice if you need to. For example, if you picked up a bag of food and you need to be reimbursed, you can add that right here. You can also add an optional note to an invoice and can give the client a discount if you want to. You'll notice on the very bottom left of the screen, there are 4 colored buttons. First up is the Add Payment button. If this client is paying you directly through TimeToPet, we will automatically mark the invoice as paid. But if this client is paying you via cash or a check or another method outside of our system, you can manually mark the invoice as paid right from here. If you need to email this invoice to a client, you can do so by clicking the email button. You can also change the custom message if you need to right from here. You can also download this invoice as a PDF if you needed to print it. And if this customer left you a cash or check tip and you wanted to add that to the invoice, you can do so by clicking the Add Tip button. Let's now take a look at bulk invoicing in TimeToPet. Bulk invoicing is where you can perform multiple actions on your invoices in bulk. For example, if you wanted to email all of your invoices out on Fridays, or if your customers have given you permission and you want to charge the card on file on Tuesdays, you can do all of that directly from here. The first step in bulk invoicing is setting your filter. We'll set this to any due date and then search for invoices. TimeToPet is going to show you all of the invoices that match your filter settings, and you can select all of the invoices you'd like to perform an action on. You can also check all of them by clicking the Check All or Check None button. After you've selected your invoices, you can click the Email Invoices button to email all of these invoices out to your clients at once. If you click the drop-down next to email invoices, you also have the ability to send confirmation emails. These are simple confirmations that do not include the invoice. You can also charge the invoices. If these customers had a payment method on file, like a credit card or an ACH payment method, then you would be able to actually process payments for your customers. Lastly, let's say all 4 of these clients paid us via cash and we want to mark their invoices as manually paid. You can do so right from here. Let's now jump to the reporting section of TimeToPet. First up in reporting, let's take a look at revenue reports. Revenue reports allow you to run really custom reports based on the revenue your business is generating over any date range that you select. All of these reports can also be downloaded as a spreadsheet if you need to do so. Next up is the payments report. Payments report allows you to get a list of all of the payments that are being entered into your TimeToPet account. Again, you can set the filter right here, select which clients you want to see, and then generate your report. These reports can also be downloaded as a spreadsheet. Visits report allows you to get a list of all of the visits that are being completed or scheduled in your TimeToPet account. Let's say we wanted to see all visits over the last 30 days for John Doe completed by James Turner. Just click Generate, and TimeToPet will give you a list of all of those events that match your filter settings. Again, these can also be downloaded as a spreadsheet. Sales report allows you to download all of your sales data with one click. And lastly, clients and staff reports allow you to get a list of your clients and staff members based on different filters. For example, if we wanted to see a list of all clients who have activated their client portal, you can set that filter right here, and TimeToPet will show you that information. Again, these can also be exported as spreadsheets. Lastly, in our demo, we will go through some of the settings options in TimeToPet. A quick note about settings. If you ever need to search for a specific setting, you can always do so right from here. For example, if we wanted to search for saved replies, just search saved, and TimeToPet will show you all of the settings options that match your search results. The first settings page here is Company Settings General. This is where you can review and update all of the information about your business. This would be things like your business name, your business website, your social media pages, and your address. Next up is the Client Fields section. Client Fields is where you can review and update all of the information that you collect about your clients. You can add new groups or add new fields right from here. Again, all of this information is configurable, so we highly recommend setting up your custom fields to match the information that you collect about your clients. Pet Fields is where you can update all of the information that you collect about your client's pets. Again, this is similar to Client Fields, but all of this information is very specific to the pets that are in your care. Messaging is where you can configure a lot of different messages that are sent from your TimeToPet account to your clients. For example, if you wanted to customize the client welcome email and make it a little bit more personal from your business, you can do so right from here. Saved replies is where you can configure different saved replies that you can send to your clients from your TimeToPet account. For example, if you're constantly sending a different message to your clients when they have a past due invoice, you can create a saved reply for past due invoice and then reuse it whenever you're sending a message to a client. The scheduler section is where you can view and update all of the configuration options that happen on your scheduler. For example, if you wanted to change the default coloring mechanism to color by event status instead of color by staff, you can adjust that right from here. Next up is the theme section. The theme section is where you can customize the look and feel of your Time to Pet account. You can add your own company logos, update the coloring in the dashboard, the client portal, and for emails that are sent to your clients and your staff members. For example, if you wanted to change the header color to a green, you can set that right here and save, and now your header bar is green. Let's go ahead and jump to the invoicing settings section. Invoice settings is where you can customize all of the information about your invoices in Time to Pet. For example, if you wanted to add an invoice note to be included on every single invoice you create, you can do so right from here. Or if you want to change the rules that set the due date for your invoices, you can adjust those here. Next up is the credit card section. The credit card section is where you can connect your account with WePay so you can accept credit card, debit card, and ACH payments from your customers. To get started, just click the Connect with WePay button. Next up is the settings section for the mobile app. The first tab is some general information on the mobile app in Time to Pet. We also include some links that you can share with your clients and your staff members so they can download the Time to Pet app. Of course, they can always search for Time to Pet from their app store as well. As a reminder, Time to Pet uses the same app for clients and staff members to make it really simple to find our app. Of course, if a client logs in, we'll direct them to the client side of the app, and if a staff member logs in, we'll direct them to the staff side. Next up is the mobile app configuration section. This is where you can enable both time and GPS tracking and optionally share that data with your clients. As a reminder, when GPS is enabled, Time to Pet will only track the check-in and check-out coordinates when a staff member starts and stops a visit. If you'd like to track full GPS routes, then you can enable that on a service-by-service basis. Next up is visit report cards. Visit report cards are where you can create a customized set of questions that your staff members can complete when finishing a visit. The post-visit report sent to your clients will include notes, pictures, and the answers to these visit report cards. Lastly is field visibility. This is where you can actually customize the information that is shared with your staff members when they are viewing their events on their staff app. There might be certain pieces of information that are really important to your team members, like the event note or access instructions, and you can make sure your staff members have really quick and easy access to that information. Of course, your staff members will always have access to the entire client profile and the pet profiles, but this is the really important information they need just as they're about to start a visit. Next up is client settings. The first tab in client settings is where you can adjust the client naming convention for your customers. In Time to Pet, you can set this to the client's name and then the pet names, or the pet names and the client name. Keep in mind that when adjusting this setting, Time to Pet will rename your clients throughout Time to Pet. Next up is the Pets tab. The Pets tab is where you can set automated pet birthday reminders. You can choose who these reminders are sent to and when they are sent right from here. Next up is the Vaccinations tab. Vaccinations is where you can create the vaccinations that your business likes to track and also create the vaccination reminder email and determine when this is sent out to your team. The portal policy allows you to create a customized policy that your clients will have to e-sign the very first time they access the portal. Most of our customers will add information like their service agreement or information on their billing policies here. When a new client activates their client portal account, Time to Pet will show them your portal policy and require that they e-sign this document before they can access the portal. If you make any changes to your portal policy, you can choose to force all clients to re-sign or simply update it for new customers. Next up is portal settings. Portal settings allow you to configure a lot of the information that is shared with your clients in their client portal and also in the client app. For example, if you wanted to allow customers to add tips in the client portal, you can do so right from here. Lastly is the schedule block section. Using schedule blocks means that your customer cannot request an event exactly at 1 p.m. Instead, they have to request the event in the afternoon schedule block, which again gives you and your team more flexibility as you are completing events. All of these blocks are entirely customizable. You can delete them, you can add your own, or you can edit these. Next up, let's take a look at some staff settings. The first section is some general information about your staff members. You can adjust whether your company uses employees or independent contractors and can also set early event completion rules right from here. Next up is the permissions section. Permissions is where you can customize what each role in your Time to Pet account is able to do. For example, if you wanted your office managers to have access to scheduling but not invoicing, you can adjust their permissions right from here. Next up is the integration section. Time to Pet supports 4 different integrations. First up is our integration with Dropbox. This allows you to automatically back up all of your Time to Pet information to your Dropbox account. We also support an integration with third-party calendars. This allows you to sync all of your Time to Pet events to your third-party calendar of choice. We also have an integration with QuickBooks Online. This means you can connect your Time to Pet account to your QuickBooks account, and Time to Pet can sync over all of your invoices, all of your payments, even new clients that you create in Time to Pet immediately to your QuickBooks Online account. Lastly is our text messaging feature. Text messaging allows you to automatically send messages to clients and staff members as text messages instead of as emails or push notifications. For more information on text messaging, we highly recommend reviewing our help documentation on this particular feature. Lastly in settings is the advanced section. First up here is the happiness survey. The happiness survey allows you to gather regular feedback from your customers about how satisfied they are with your business and your team. Notifications allow you to make a lot of customizations to the notifications that are sent to you and to your staff members. Email logs is where you can view all emails being sent to your clients and your staff members. The bulk notification editor and bulk custom client rates are tools that you probably won't use very often in Time to Pet. These allow you to make changes to notification settings and client rates in bulk. Lastly in our demo is the Keys tab. The Keys tab allows you to create custom key locations that you can store keys at for your business. For example, if you store keys at a secondary office or at a UPS store, you can add those custom key locations here. This is the end of the Getting Started video. If you have any questions for Time to Pet, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask them. The easiest place to send us messages is by clicking the Help button found at the top of the screen and then Contact Us. You can also send us direct messages by emailing us at support@timetopet.com. You can access the knowledge base by clicking Help and then Knowledge Base, or you can always navigate here by going directly to help.timetopet.com. The knowledge base is entirely searchable and is a great place to look for information. Thanks again for your time. We appreciate it.